Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allows you to record and edit your broadcast so it sounds great. And they even distribute your broadcast for you so that it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So make sure you download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello everyone, and here are your FET news. Join Andrew every Thursday on our podcast for his show, Let's Fret About Education, where he discusses his own opinions about the topics on Future Educators Talk and what's happening around the world. Join me every Friday for Damian Talks Education, where I am talking about all things education. So make sure you follow on social media and subscribe on YouTube. Join KJ for virtual Bible study every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on the Relentless LUCHU YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe. New episodes of Future Educators Talk drops every Thursdays, so follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast at. Follow Future Educators Talk on social media: Facebook, Future Educators Talk; Instagram, Future Educators Talk; Twitter, FEDU Talk; and follow your hosts on social media as well. Andrew FRETT, Instagram, it's Andrew FRETT; Twitter, Darren_FRETT; Damian Anderson, Instagram, Damian Anderson; Twitter, _Damian Anderson; KJ Johnson II, Instagram and Twitter, KJ Johnson II; and Coach Darnell Jerome, Instagram at Coach_DJ12, and Twitter at Coach Darnell J. So follow your hosts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Future Educators Talk, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our video version episodes. Also, you can now listen to past episodes of our show on our YouTube channel and everywhere on podcast platform. Welcome to Future Educators Talk with your hosts, Andrew FRETT, Damian Anderson, KJ Johnson II, and Coach Darnell Jerome. Now, let's talk education because FET starts now.
Hello everyone. Is a national certified school psychologist who is currently working in the Naperville School District and who's currently working on his Doctorate of Education degree in organizational leadership with an emphasis in K-12 leadership at Grand Canyon University. Has some previous experience working in the mental health field as a crisis counselor and mental health provider, and he has dedicated his life to inspiring the youth and changing the lives and making a difference in the field of education and mental health. So everyone, welcome on to my show, Mr. Chris Colson. Hello, Mr. Chris Colson, and welcome back
How's
to
it
the
going?
show. Yes, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing good. I am blessed. Thank you so much for returning back to my show.
No problem. Hey, thanks for having me again. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes. So let's hop right into it. We will be discussing, are we facing a mental health crisis for our boys? So with this, and I'll talk about this a lot, and I want to touch base on this here with you, is that we as men, as Black men, we do not like to share our problems, whatever our struggles, with anyone when we're dealing with mental health. Why do you think that? Why we like to, keep it all in to ourselves and not express, what is going on in our lives? Why do you think that?
I think it has a lot to do with just how society kind of puts that perception that we have to be, we have to be tough, we have to be able to handle things, just be able to take it on the chin and kind of deal with it, on our own way and kind of keep on going. And I think that's the biggest, issue that kind of prevents not only boys but males in general from kind of expressing how they're feeling, especially when it comes to mental health issues. Because it also kind of it can give off the perception that we're or men or boys are weak. Um, if they are expressing how they're feeling, if they're want to get help for the mental health issues. So I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing is just that perception and maybe that stigma that men and boys will be strong. They're supposed to be the ones that just deal with everything on their own and kind of just keep on going. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. So
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you in here. Now, I came across this here that while the teenage years has always been a time for crucial development and emotions, our American teens now they seem to be struggling more than ever, and especially our boys, our Black men. And I found that one study, they rate of the depression, it increased by 52% in our teens, and this was back in 2005 and 2017. And then in 2019, it went up to about 70% with anxiety and depression, and with the major problems that we are facing. Now, for boys in particular, I found this as well that there has been an alarming rise in suicides, especially our older Black men teens, 15 and older. And this, what I want to like, why do you think this is like every year it is going, it's to me, it seems it is going higher and higher and higher. It's not going any lower. Why do you think that? How can we help out? How can we stop this from happening of our Black men wanting to kill themselves? How can we stop it?
I think it kind of goes back to what we just talked about. I think it's kind of a snowball effect. The fact that they're not, or we're not willing um, to express ourselves and kind of let others know how we're feeling and kind of get that help. And the more you kind of sit with that and kind of continue to deal with that, it takes a toll on you. And I think just not being able to have that outlet to be able to talk to someone to express how we're feeling, and get that help, I think it leads to depression, anxiety, and then when that's not taken care of, that's when you kind of lead to those suicidal ideations, and then unfortunately to the actual the act of suicide. So I think it all kind of goes hand in hand. Just not being able to express ourselves, not being able to have an outlet to be able to go and get that help, and then it just leads to just a snowball effect where it gets worse and worse over time. And I think what can kind of help to kind of put a stop to that or kind of reverse it is just reaching out to more Black males,
Right.
giving them resources, giving them options for outlets to be able to go talk to someone. And I think the biggest thing is letting them know that it's okay if you need help. It's not a sign of weakness. Everyone needs help at some point in their life, especially with mental health issues. It's important to be able to get the help because it can get worse over time. So I think it's important to give them outlets, give them resources, so they can go and talk to someone, or they can go sit down with someone and kind of express how they're feeling, and just make that more of a thing that we're doing. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's looked down upon. More make it so that more people are doing it. And then hopefully more males be willing to take that step to be able to say, okay, I need help, and be able to actually go and get that help. But I think there's a snowball effect. It goes back to not being able to express ourselves, not being able to have the outlet, and not having those resources, whether it be because we don't have it in our vicinity, or it's because we were not willing to go and actually look for those things. So
Yeah, and I want to go back to what if they do not have like a father in their life or a black male teacher in their life? What are some other ways that they can find, a trusted black man to come to and share whatever their problems with?
I think there's a lot of different other options. There's mentors out there. There's what, if they're into sports, you have coaches and things like that that can possibly play that father figure for them. You have Boys and Girls Club organizations, that are out there that are, geared towards, giving, those individuals a father figure, if they don't have one, because there are a lot of kids growing up that don't have that black male father figure. So there are resources, there are supports out there that they can definitely go to if they don't have that in their immediate vicinity. Like I mentioned, coaching, mentors, and things like that. So there are some out there. It's just just having to be able to just find them and see what works best for you.
Yes. So let's touch base on destigmatize mental health. Now, to help our boys process these emotions in a very productive way, schools, in my opinion, they need to destigmatize mental health challenges very easily. So why do you think, and I'm asking you this, why are we not touching base on mental health in our schools? And we have waited for so long, and finally this pandemic happens, and then everyone just wants, like chime in and stuff, but like, why can we not do this before the pandemic has happened? Because this is real. Students are, they are dealing with a lot of stuff every single day, and we don't notice it. We don't notice it because we don't talk about it, and we don't give them,
Right.
The right resources to help them. So why do you think that some schools are doing this, and then some are not? They are just, shying away from it.
I think just the pandemic really kind of brought out a lot of these mental health issues that we're having in the schools, kind of brought it to light.
Yeah.
But I think before that, I think just some schools don't have the resources to be able to necessarily support students who have mental health issues. I also think some schools may not want to kind of open that can of worms, sort of say. Because one thing I've learned is, just in my experience working in schools, if a lot of times they'll have screeners where you have a mental health screening that you give to kids and kind of see how they're doing, where they're at, and then you can kind of go further for kids who say they need help or kind of based on their answers. But one thing that I've learned is, if you screen, then you have to intervene. A lot of schools don't necessarily want to go or have the onus of having to go and intervene if something comes up during those screenings. So that's why, in my experience, a lot of times some schools shy away from certain screeners that look at mental health because they might bring up some things that they might not have the resources to deal with or support. So I think just not having the resources, and I think not thinking that it's an issue in schools, because depending on where you're at, depending on where the school is at, the demographics, things like that, some schools may seem like they're better off as far as the mental health issues than other schools. But one thing is, there's always mental health issues, whether it looks like it or not. So I think some schools may feel like they're doing better as far as mental health, and they'll need to really, do as much. So I think that's one of the issues as well. But I think just with this pandemic, it's really, put that spotlight on, mental health and how important it is. A lot of kids were at home over the last year, and they can't kind of get that mental health support that they would ever to get at while they're at school. So I think schools are now going to put a more emphasis on mental health, especially with kids coming back now, because they have to be in that a right state of mind to be able to learn. So I think now schools are gonna take a step forward and really addressing those issues once students start coming back, because they're gonna see a lot of things come up where mental health issues will arise based on the pandemic, just kids being at home and not having that support. So, but I think having the necessary resources is what prevents a lot of districts and schools from really addressing the mental health issue to the fullest extent that they should.
Yes, absolutely. Now, here's what I want to get, and I want to hear your thoughts on this here, that our boys and their outbursts. Now, I found this, that when boys, they can't express their emotions in a very healthy way, they may become, vary their acts with anger and violence. Now, according to one study, boys, they are prone to these types of problems with anger, outbursts, and sometimes even violence. And data shows that boys, they are nearly twice as likely to get into physical fights as girls, for example. And and then I found another that says that often, rather than, exploring all these issues and the cause of their behavior, these outbursts, they result in punishment into our schools. Parents, they're being biased about this and unfair, and also with our students of colors and students with disabilities. So why are, especially students of color, they are more acting toward in a anger and outburst kind of way? They want to, violence, get into much fights than with our white students.
I think there's a few reasons why. I think one of the reasons is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, just not having those outlets to be able to, get those to express their feelings, kind of get those feelings out, and kind of talk about them and deal with them. So once you keep bottling those feelings up, more times than not, they're going to come out in a negative way, whether it be outbursts, whether it be aggression. It's going to come out in a negative way, because if you don't know how to appropriately express those, it's going to come out in a negative way. So I think just not being able to have that outlet to be able to not only to express themselves, but also learn the coping skills, how to deal with that, those issues that may be coming up appropriately. So once it gets to a point where it kind of boils up, it's going to come out in a negative way. I also think just based on how schools, how they how they kind of look at Black and white students. Sometimes Black students may feel like they're not supported, or that their teachers are looking at them more, they're targeting them more as far as behavior wise, and so that can lead to aggression and outbursts and whatnot, because they're already maybe dealing with things outside of school, and then when they come to school, they feel like we're getting treated differently, or disciplined a lot more, and so that leads to a lot of the the outbursts, the aggression, things like that. So I think just not feeling supported at school and seeing that they maybe are treated differently, and then the fact that they don't have the necessary outlets to be able to get that support, to give them the skills and coping mechanisms to be able to appropriately address those issues that they're dealing with, so that they can address them in a positive way and not wait till they come out in a negative manner. So I think those are two of the biggest things that I've seen over my, just my years working in the school. That kind of leads to a lot of those, that negative behavior, sort of thing. So.
Yes. And why are, and I'm trying to understand this here, in our schools, trying to deal with, behaviors of students, why do they always come to us, Black men, Black educators, to try to help and fix the problems out? And they do not have no idea of how to do, and they come to us because they see us as, of handling the situation more better than they can. Why is that? Why do they come to us for that?
Well, I think I've had this a lot, just in my experience, because in the previous districts that I've been in, I've been one of the few, not only Black, individuals there, but also male, black male. So I think the reason why a lot of times they come to us to kind of deal with that is because they don't know how to deal with it themselves. And it's because they don't have that relationship with those students. So without that relationship, you know, you're not gonna feel like you can deal with them, or you may not even want to deal with them. So they kind of, give us where they feel like, okay, well, I'm Black, they're Black, you should have a relationship, you may be better with dealing with them. So I think it stems from not having a relationship and not taking time to build that relationship with them, which leads to them not feeling comfortable dealing with them, or just not wanting to deal with them. So that's why a lot of times I have a better relationship with those students, because, I talk with them, I bring them to my office, we have a conversation, I treat them like any other student, in the school, whether they're having a good day or a bad day, whether they're upset or not, I sit down and try to figure out what I can do to get them back to a place where they're able to learn. So I don't think that happens with a lot of the other staff when it comes to our Black students, which kind of hinders that relationship that between the two. And then it doesn't, and they're less hesitant to try to deal with that situation, and rather just send them to me, have me deal with it. So that's the biggest thing. They don't have that relationship because they haven't tried to build it with those students, and that leads to a lot of the more discipline that you see between not only Black males but also Black females, because they don't have that relationship. So anytime something goes not according to how it should go in the classroom, it's quick, you're gonna get written up, you're going to the principal's office, instead of trying to figure out what this child is going through, how can I help them. It's straight to discipline. And that's what I've been seeing a lot. So but that relationship not being there is really what kind of leads to a lot of those issues.
Yes. And what I want to get your take on this. What's your advice and tips for educators out there of trying to build relationships with their students, especially during this time? Because I believe that that relationship that you build with your students, that is the key. Because if you don't have that relationship with your students, then that particular student that you don't have a relationship with, in my opinion, it's going to be a very rocky year between you and that student. And they're going to test your buttons because you don't have that, that good bond, that relationship with that student. So what's your advice, tip to educators who, in my opinion, needs to have that relationship with their students?
Yeah, like you said, I think relationship is the most important factor in dealing with students, because it don't matter who the student is. If you have a relationship with them, it's going to be easier to deal with them. So I would say what other educators can do is just talk to the students. Whether it's just seeing them in the hallway, seeing how they're doing, just simple as asking how their day is going. Because that can lead to more conversation. I think just taking time out. I think that's the biggest thing, is taking time out of your day to just to talk to the students, see how they're doing, see how their day is going. Ask them about how things at home are going. It takes just very little to make a big difference. Just saying hi to them, just saying how are they doing, it goes a long way in building that relationship. And then having that relationship goes a long way in dealing with those students. Because you can go and see how teachers are that have a good relationship with their class, and how teachers that don't necessarily have it with some of their students, because their class runs a lot smoother because, one, the students respect them, the students are more willing to learn, and it makes teaching easier for teachers. And other staff, it just makes having a relationship better. If they're having a bad day, it's easier for them to come talk to you if they have that relationship with you than if they don't. I always say that if you have a relationship with someone, it's always easier to go talk to them. And when you talk, especially when kids are having a bad day or they're upset, and you're able to talk to them, then you can talk to them at any other point in time. Then, because if you can talk to them when they're agitated, when they're upset, you can talk to them at any other point. Because the hardest time to get through to a student is when they're upset, is when they're mad, when they're frustrated. So once you're able to get through when they're in that state with them, everything else just comes so much easier, So I think just taking the time out of your day, is just such small things to say how, ask a student how they're doing, how the day is going, things like that. But it goes a long way. So I think those are some tips, just see how your students are, doing. And it doesn't always have to be about, academics. It could be, how's your if they're in high school, how's your job going? How's your brothers and sisters doing? So it's the little things, I think that really helps build that relationship between educators, teachers, and students. So
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree with you on that. Now, I want to touch base on how we can create spaces for our boys to connect with other boys dealing with their mental health. Now, while boys can be very reluctant to talk with therapists or, to their own parents or whoever it may be, dealing with their problems, one way to grow their emotional muscles is through support groups at schools, if they have them, which one research shows that this can be a very effective tool for dealing with all these problems that you're dealing with. So, do you think, well, I know this is a good idea, that creating a good space for our boys is good for them to connect with other boys as well as sharing their own experience together and see that they may come from the same space or something totally different, but they can come together and solve these together. What do you think about that? And do schools need to have these types of spaces? Your opinion?
I think that's a great way to get other males to kind of bond and kind of open up. I'm currently in a high school this year. The past 2 years, I was in elementary school, and that's one thing I did is I had a boys group where I had students who usually teachers would give me students who they would recommend for my group, students who maybe struggling a little bit more, don't have those father figures at home, stuff like that. So I would have those boys groups where I would just bring them into my office and just let them just be themselves.
Yes.
We also work on different coping skills, and is talking about life. It was always a therapeutic piece to it, but it's also a chance to let them just be themselves, because a lot of times when they're at school they don't have that opportunity. They're always in class and they're always having to behave a certain way. So I let them just come in and just be themselves. We also go outside, and play basketball, go to the gym, and play basketball, just doing things that kind of get them out of that, that just, I got to be, fit this mold to be in school, and just let them kind of be themselves. And that really helped, because kids get that chance to be able to not only be themselves, but also just, feel free and talk about different things that they may not talk about with their teachers and stuff like that. So I think that is a great way to get students. And I think it's important for, for the Black students, but also just males in general, because my groups have been, Black and white students, Black, all different kind, students, because, boys in general need that outlet, regardless of their race, things like that. So I think they all need the outlet. So I think it is a good way to really get those kids to be able to have a different outlet to be able to express themselves. Now, a lot of times, in my experience, it wasn't something that the school did. It was something that I came up with. So I think that's going to be, I guess, the onus of whoever wants to do it. They have to kind of push that on their own, because a lot of times you might not have it. Schools might not have that, just because it's something that gets overlooked. So I think it's important to advocate for that. I never really got any pushback. A lot of times, the schools, they were like, that's a great idea. They hadn't really thought of that. So, or they thought of it, but they never had the, the resources or had the personnel to be able to do it. So, I take time out of my schedule to be able to do that. I thought it was really important for the, those males and those boys, young males, to be able to have that space and outlet to be able to just, be themselves,
Yes,
and just, have that positive atmosphere. So
yes, absolutely. Be themselves. Absolutely. I like that. Be themselves. Now, I want to leave off with this here that if anyone out there, if you or someone you know who is struggling with suicide thoughts, you are not alone. So you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK, which is down below. And they provide free help, you guys, 24/7. So you guys are not alone. So Chris, Colson, I want to leave off this here. Do you have anything that you would like to leave off for our listeners and to our Black men and also to all men out there on this subject of mental health?
I would just leave off by saying that, take care of yourselves first and foremost. Getting help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, because you know that, okay, I need help. And I want to go out there and get help. So I think it's important to get help. There's resources out there, there's supports out there. It may take some researching and going out and actually finding it, but they're out there, and I think it's important to take advantage of that, because with everything going on with the pandemic, with the racial injustices that are going on, it takes a toll on us, whether we realize it or not. So I think it's important to take care of ourselves, take advantage of any resources and supports that are out there, and just support each other too. I think it's the biggest thing. Support each other through this, this fight that we're in. So.
Yes, agree with you on that. Yes. So I want to thank you so much for coming back onto my show as my guest co-host. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So you guys make sure you follow Mr. Chris Colson, you guys, which is down below. And I will see you guys next time on Daniel Talks Education. So until then, you guys, take care of yourself and be blessed.
What's going on, everybody? It's KJ here, letting you know that if you have any questions or concerns about Future Educators Talk, stories to share, feedback to make our podcast better, reactions to the topics that we discuss, jokes to tell, or you would like someone for the co-host to interview, please let us know by direct messaging us on Instagram at Future Educators Talk, emailing us at futureeducatorstalk@gmail.com, or sending in a voice message to us by going to anchor.fm/futureedtalk. Click on the message tab to where you can record your question to us. Once again, we thank you for listening. Thank you for your continued support, and we cannot wait for you to tune in.
Don't just listen to Future Educators Talk on your smartphone. Continue the conversation online. Like us on Facebook. Be a part of our conversation by telling us what you think of our episodes. Join us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes content. Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date with what's happening on our podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss future episodes. And beyond, it's you who keeps Future Educators Talk going. So like, comment, share, subscribe, review, and connect everywhere with us. You get social. So let's listen together.